Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If this is your first time here, you're a bit late. This is video number 447. My name is Jody. I love watches and I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel by hitting the big button that says subscribe on it. Now I'm guessing you're here because you're interested in this, the Timex M79, the brand new automatic version of the Timex Q, which was one of the hottest watches of last year. And it looks like the M79 Auto is going to be one of the hottest watches of this year, certainly at the budget end of the market anyway. Now, I'm not going to tell you not to buy this watch. It's your money after all, or at least I assume it is. If it isn't, you'd better hand it back. I'm just here today to make sure that if you do pick yourself up one of these, you do so with both eyes wide open. It is not without its charms, this watch. I certainly think that the automatic is a larger, heavier, more wearable piece for most people than the Quartz was, but $279 is a fair chunk of money to blow on something that may end up being a bit of a novelty. And $279 US is a lot of money to blow on something with a crystal you will scratch, a bracelet you will end up hating, and one of the cheapest, roughest, ugliest automatic movements on the market. Regulars to the channel may well recognise these guys, the kittens of rotor noise doom. I introduced them to the channel about 2 years ago to critique the Miyota 8000 series movement, which is in the back of this $279 Timex. Now I should point out, this watch doesn't belong to me, it belongs to a good friend and firm supporter of the channel, Ashley. Ashley is a man of a certain vintage who appreciates a watch with an aesthetic of a certain vintage, and he knew exactly what he was getting when he paid retail for one of these, though I see the scalpers are out already. $279 quickly becomes $350 and even up to $400 if you want to buy one of these on eBay. My suggestion is that you don't pay anything over retail if you do buy one of these at all. Still interested? Alright, let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Now, you certainly aren't going to feel shortchanged when it comes to the packaging for your $279 US. Indeed, it could be argued that the packaging is the most substantial feeling element of the whole package at 450 grams, whereas the watch itself weighs a mere 111 grams. Now, the wags are already referring to this one as the Batmex because of the Batman blue and black style bezel, but I think there is a deeper parallel between this and the Rolex GMT Master 2 that I reviewed earlier on this year. Both watches share certain visual cues, this two-tone bezel being the most obvious. However, they both also share dodgy, wobbly bezels and noisy movements. But you know what? Both of them will sell regardless. This Timex, much like the Rolex, seems to be a watch made by a company that knows it's going to sell regardless how much or how little effort is put into the actual watch itself. And I don't think an awful lot of effort has gone into this M79, to be honest. Now, as I intimated in the intro, this one does feel larger because it is larger and more substantial than the Q that I reviewed last year. So 40mm in diameter, 14.25mm thick. I guess some of that comes from the domed acrylic crystal, but some of it also comes from a protruding caseback. 46mm lug tip to lug tip, so it does wear well. 18mm hidden lugs, tapering down to about 14, back up to a little over 14 at the clasp there. And as I said already, this one weighs in at 110 grams, so it actually feels quite substantial on wrist. I think a lot of the weight comes from the head of the watch, so it feels disproportionately heavy. It feels a little heavier than that 110 grams actually suggests. So 316L stainless steel case, crown and full bracelet with rolled links. These are going to nip some of the hairs off your arm, and I already talked about that piece of domed acrylic crystal that you will undoubtedly scratch. However, all is not lost with acrylic. A $5 tub of Polywatch, I'll pop in a picture of some Polywatch here, will mean that you can buff out those scratches no problem at all. Now, the bezel is 120 click unidirectional rotating dive time. Now, I already showed you there's quite a bit of play, quite a bit of wobble. It feels really quite light and tinny, and you can almost get it to kind of click back and forth as well. Not ideal. It does have a lume pip though, only 50 meters of water resistance. The crown doesn't screw down, so you're not going to be taking this one diving, but you can get it swimming. And there is some lume on the hands and the indices, but it's really not all that great. You know, it's there, but don't expect to wake up at 6 a.m. and see what time it is, because you'll be struggling. The bezel insert is aluminium and it actually looks quite nice. I do think the colour scheme, the blue and black, looks pretty good overall, especially when you combine it with that little flash of colour you get from the red second hand. Now the handset here, they've gone for something that doesn't look quite like Mercedes. I mean, it's kind of there but not quite there. Reminds me of the old Sergio Tacchini fashion label logo from the 1980s. You obviously have a very similar to the Rolex triangle at 12, batons at the 6 and the 9, and circular indices everywhere else, and a day-date complication at the 3 o'clock. Indices are applied and there is a minute track all the way around the outer edge. Timex logo, I quite like that. Bold block font applied just above the pinion, automatic simply above the 6, and water resistance 50 meters either side of the index down there at the 6 o'clock. So flipping it over and having a look at the case back, screw on, as I said, 50 meters of water resistance, the customary spec sheet around the back. And there is the Miyota 8000 series. This one has the day-date complication, as already discussed. Now that is a basic, ugly looking auto. I appreciate any watch that has a display case back, but sometimes you're probably better using a closed case back because that is not an attractive movement. At least they put Timex on the rotor there. And I did notice that this one hand winds, as all the Miyota 8000 series do, but it does not hack. Now Miyota upgraded the 8000 series to include hacking. This is obviously an old batch of Miyota 8000s that doesn't include hacking. And they're noisy. Here come the kittens. Lots of spinny, lots of clicky. This rotor only winds in one direction, hence that endless spinning, and you do feel the wobble on wrist, which has led me on several previous occasions to remove the rotor entirely. This is a $35 AliExpress Chinese special by Gladster that also featured a Miyota 8000 series. I took the rotor off. Now that would be a bit drastic in your $279 Timex, but it just goes to show what I really think about this movement. It's a donkey. At least the one in the back of Ashley's M79 appears to be fairly accurate, coming in hovering around the 0 seconds per day variance with a reasonable amplitude, 0 beat error, 21,600 vibrations per hour, which leads to 6 ticks in that second hand per second. And as discussed in all of the Timex literature, it is a 21 joule movement. It's not all bad though. It is a charming watch to look at once you have it on wrist. I do like the design overall, the fact that they've used a black day-date wheel, they've kept the dial very simple, and that bezel insert, that aluminium bezel insert, the Batman insert, does look pretty good. The case finishing is decent as well. There's a nice bit of horizontal brush all around that mid-case, polish on the side, and the bracelet looks good, but if you wear it loose, it's gonna take your arm hair off. Being a dive style watch, legibility is also pretty impressive. White on black always helps in that regard too. Similarly, outside you get some lovely distortion from that acrylic crystal, but the hands and dial still remain legible under most light conditions. On wrist, vintage style case, not a lot of curvature, but 46mm lug tip to lug tip means it's going to wear well for most guys. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference, which is pretty much average, and it certainly wears nicely as long as I keep that bracelet done up tight. So I used the N word in the intro, novelty. You're paying quite a lot of money for not an awful lot of watch. I have reviewed probably 100 watches that outspec this for less than $279 US. So both eyes wide open. If you still want to buy one of these, even after this video, good for you. Like I said, it's your money. I'm not here to tell you not to buy it. Just know what you're buying, and you're buying a watch that you may enjoy for a month or two, but you may end up flipping. I saw an awful lot of the Timex Qs being flipped not long after purchase by buyers, and I suspect this M79 is going to go the same way. Great idea, great looks, but the quality doesn't really match the price tag. So there you have it. Did you make it to the end of the video? If you did, congratulations. If you did, are you still interested in the Timex M79 automatic? I think it's a damn sight better than the Q. It feels bigger, it is bigger, it feels more solid and weighty, and an automatic is going to appeal to a whole bunch more guys than the Quartz did. But it's still flimsy, it's still gonna scuff and scratch, it's still gonna take most of the hairs off your arms, it's still not all that well built, and it's $279. I have reviewed countless watches better than this one, in the hand and on the wrist, for similar money or less money than Timex are charging for it. What I think probably isn't going to make a difference at all. This watch is going to sell out and then sell out and then sell out, but I suspect a lot of guys will buy them, have a look-see, and then flip them shortly thereafter. So, you have been warned. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.